Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today is another weekly wrap up. This week was the first week of the Tome Topple Readathon, so 2 out of the 3 books that I read this week were for Tome Topple. That means that I've already completed one Tome Topple challenge, which is to read more than one tome. So this is the reading wrap up for the week of the 19th to the 25th of November. I read 3 books as I said before, a total of 1,451 pages, and my yearly reading total is up to 239 books. Again, I will apologise for the lighting. I've had to put on as much artificial light as I can because even though it has been stinking hot here in Melbourne and I have not been enjoying the disgustingly hot weather, how many negative adjectives can I throw in there about summer? And we've barely even started. But today it is massively overcast and I've got no light. So we're going to try and deal with this the best way that we can. Before I jump into the books that I read this week, I am going to cut to past Steph, who is going to talk to you about Unearthed, since it has since been released and I can now talk about it. Take it away. Thanks, future self. So I am going to talk a little bit more about Unearthed. Obviously, I read this book last week, but I was waiting for the release of the book to actually go about it in any detail. It is a 2017 new release from Allen and Unwin by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. It is called Unearthed and it has the most gorgeous sort of shiny cover on the front. It has been tagged as Indiana Jones meets Lara Croft in space, and there are aspects of that that I can see. Years earlier, Earth received a transmission from a long extinct civilization, potentially holding the secrets to saving the Earth, which has become overcrowded and they're suffering from resource loss and in desperate need of really good technological solutions to save the future of the human race. This civilization is called the Undying and their message leads humans to the planet Gaia. Our 2 main characters in this story, Jules and Amelia, are both on the planet for very different reasons. Jules is an academic and he's determined to unravel the mystery of the Undying, and he is up against Amelia, who is a scavenger who is there only to find technology and resources that she can take back and sell on Earth. So they're both trying to find treasures and riches, but they're different sorts, and this causes them to clash quite a bit when they're unexpectedly thrown together and have to work together to survive on this planet where there are other scavengers who they are racing the clock against as well. However, as they begin to unravel more of the mystery surrounding the Undying, things become more complex and they realize that perhaps not everything is as it seems. Okay, so Unearthed is one of my most anticipated reads of this year because I love Lara Croft and I love Indiana Jones, and what could be more perfect than both of those set in space. Unfortunately, I don't think this particular book lived up to the hype for me. It was a good story and I enjoyed it. I think the first half of the story is a solid 3. It's very YA. There's a lot of repetition for the characters. I feel like we got hit over the head a little bit with some of the information repeatedly. It's like, okay, we know that they don't get along. We know that they're both here for different reasons. And we know that they've both got a purpose and we know that they've got secrets, and that stuff felt like it was sort of whacking you over the head for a bit. And thankfully that sort of died off a little bit as you got to the second half of the book, which was a lot more action-packed and a lot more thrilling. That one was more like a 4. So I'm gonna average it out to 3.75 stars, but I'm really interested in the second book because I actually think that that part of the story is going to be a lot more interesting from a look at society and a look at the way humanity has changed over a period of time, because this is set in the near future and I love that about science fiction books. I love exploring what has happened to humanity and do we discover what actually happened to the Undying or who they were, and I really am interested in seeing that part of the story. So this really just feels like a big setup. There are some really cool scenes in it. I love all the problem solving and the challenges that they have to go through and to complete to explore some of the temples on Gaia. But what I'm really interested in is the history of it, and I'm looking forward to that in the second book. So while this was a little bit disappointing, it wasn't disappointing in a way that makes me think I'm not going to pick up the next book in the series, because I will. I really want to know what's going to happen. It is not at all difficult to read, so it's definitely something that you could just pick up and read in an afternoon if you felt like it. I'm really excited because by the time this video goes up, I will be getting ready to go to the book launch for this and to meet Amy and Megan, get my book signed and listen to their thoughts about their book and their process as well. And welcome back. So yes, those were my thoughts on Unearthed. However, I'm going to get into this week's books. The first book that I read this week was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This was for Tome Topple. It is a 2017 release by Pan Macmillan, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. In this series, the Renegades are a group of humans with special abilities who have banded together to form sort of a crime-fighting unit after a early beginning of vigilantism. They fought off the villains and then the people thanked them and put them in this position of power. Nova, however, has many reasons to hate the Renegades and has found herself aligned with the remnants of the anarchists. She is out for revenge. She finds herself getting close to Adrian, who is one of the younger recruits of the Renegades, and as their relationship grows, Nova discovers that life is very complicated when your allegiance is to a villain. This book was the YA Rooms book of the month, which is why I read it. And I do like Marissa Meyer's work, but this one just fell a little bit flat for me. It was still a good book, hence the 3 stars, because 3 stars for me is a good read. I expected more, and that wasn't even high expectations talking, because I know better now than to overhype a book for myself personally or to believe all of the hype. But this just had so much promise to be a really great superhero and villain fiction book. I don't mind which perspective we follow. And Nova was an interesting character. However, too much of this book felt like filler, like it was trying to fill up 500 pages rather than actually trying to be concise and to tell a story. It was like an origin story, but with too much information thrown into it, which was just a little bit disappointing because that slowed the story down and it took me quite a while to read it. The relationship also felt a little bit forced. However, I can see what Marissa Meyer was trying to do, and I just don't think it was pulled off in this particular book. The ending, however, did leave me very intrigued about the second book in the story, because there is a little bit of a reveal at the end, and I am very intrigued by that. So we'll have to see when the second book comes out if I'm still feeling like picking it up. Renegades was also supposed to be my buddy read for the Tome Topple, but I just sort of read it. Sorry, Madeline. I apologise. The second book that I read this week was Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer by Rick Riordan. This is a 2015 release from Puffin Books, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. And I gave this one 4.5 stars because it was just fun. It's been ages since I read a Rick Riordan book, and I forgot how much I love his stories and just how much humour he puts into them. Magnus Chase is an orphan living on the streets in Boston, and on his 16th birthday he suddenly finds himself being hunted down, and then he is thrust onto a quest to find the Sword of Summer because he has ties to the gods of Asgard. Magnus finds himself in Valhalla, where the gods of Asgard are preparing for a war. Magnus has to find the sword, or else all hell will break loose. This is told in typical Rick Riordan style. What I loved about this is the chapter headers are hilarious, or the chapter titles I should say, are hilarious in every single chapter. I'd barely even started the book and the first one says, "Good morning, you're going to die." And I don't know, but that just sounds like a really interesting way to begin a book. I really liked Magnus as a character in this book. I really like the connection to the Percy Jackson series, which if you haven't read the book, I'll let you read it to find out, unless you really want to know, and then you can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram and I'm happy to tell you. I really love the character of Sam. I loved that she wears a hijab and she explains small aspects of her religion and her faith to Magnus in a really respectful way. And I think that a bit more of this comes out in further books, but I'll have to wait and see. This was just a good, fun adventure fantasy series involving gods, and I love Norse mythology, and this was just really fun, and I loved how it poked fun at the Marvel movies as well, just occasionally, because it's always fun when you have books referencing pop culture. This book was part of my Tome Topple challenge to read a book as part of a series. This is the first book in a series, so I'm good. The last book that I read this week was not for Tome Topple. It is 6 Ways to Sunday by Carly Lane. This book was sent to me for review by Allen and Unwin. This is a 2017 release. I believe it came out last Tuesday, I think. It is published by Arena, which is an imprint of Allen and Unwin, and I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It is another Australian country romance fiction book thing, and before sort of the end of last year, I'd never really read these books, and now that I have, I'm addicted to them, and I had to read this because it was quick, easy, light, fun, fluffy. Well, it wasn't really fun or fluffy because it deals with quite a few things, but it was different to trying to get through my tomes. and I read this in one sitting on Saturday night and I absolutely enjoyed it. It is the story of Riley, who is a 20-something-year-old woman living in Sydney, and she is a naturopath by trade and she works full-time at that, but she also moonlights as a bartender on the weekends on occasion. And on one of those nights, she happens to be tending at the bar for a bucks party, and there she meets Dan and they begin this sort of whirlwind romance. He's a farmer who lives 8 hours out of Sydney, so it's sort of a whirlwind long distance courtship, and then within 3 months he proposes and she agrees and moves out to his family's farm with him. And of course, given the short time frame of this, they soon discover that there are quite a few rocky elements to their relationship, including friction between Riley and Dan's parents, as well as her outspoken views and her independence and ability to speak for herself and offer an opinion in a small town where change happens very slowly. This was a great read, and I think it dealt with a lot of things really respectfully. It highlighted a lot of issues that small country towns have, especially when it comes to education and health and treatment. And I really love the character of Riley. I love how she stood up for herself. She never let herself be beaten down by her in-laws or even by the arguments that she has with Dan when they are still in the, this really early relationship phase, trying to work out not only their relationship to each other, but also how marriage works and how to negotiate external factors that are impacting on it. So great read, highly recommend it. So those are the 3 books that I read. Pretty proud of myself. I still have 3 books left to read for Tome Topple. One of them is Tower of Dawn, Caliban's War, and I also found 18 Below, which is over 500 pages. It was sitting on my TBR shelf, so why not throw it in here and just try and get it read in the next week. And stay tuned for Friday's video where I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be reading in December, because it's quite exciting. There is a great Love Oz YA month happening as hosted by the YA Room, but I'll give you more information about that on Friday. Until then, let me know in the comments what you have been reading, what's been of interest to you this week. I hope that you've had a fabulous week no matter where you are or what you've been doing or reading, and I will catch you guys on Wednesday for my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.